Good afternoon, everyone. Here we are meeting on a very important occasion of National Cancer Awareness Day. I myself am Dr. Sivender Alapati. I'm a surgical oncologist practicing in Hyderabad. I finished my general surgery from prestigious medical college, Usmania Medical College, and also did my super specialty from Regional Cancer Center here in Hyderabad. So here I'm going to discuss a few points about a few important topics and also a few points and also some important treatment related issues and our own care. How do we take care of about ourselves from preventing ourselves and also our near and dear and also our family members from what do you call as this dreaded disease right now that is considered as cancer. Firstly, beginning about starting about knowing what is National Cancer Awareness Day. National Cancer Awareness Day is on November 7th, that is today, and it is started from the year 2014 when our present Health Minister Harshvardhan sir has started off. Dr. Harshvardhan sir has started off in the month of September, and from then on, November 7th is considered as National Cancer Awareness Day. Well, as a cancer surgeon, as a cancer specialist, my topic or my discussion would be about some common things and some common statistics and as well as some common topics related to cancer and also cancer preventing measures. Most common cancer in our Indian scenario is whether it is in males or females is lung cancer. In females, there is a slight increase in number of breast cancers and also in cervix cancers. So I am not, the number keeps varying almost every day and day out. So mostly it is the cervical, lung, and breast, and all three are mostly seen in females. And females are more commoner. And if you compare males and females, females have got more chance, not more chance, more cases of cancer that we have seen. Then when it comes to breast, when you cross 80 years of age, 70 to 80 years of age, almost one case is almost there is one case for every 8 females. That is the incidence. That's how frequent it is. And according to WHO statistics, in 2018, there was one death for every sixth cancer patient. So cancer by itself is a very devastating disease. Lot of economic problems. People even spend so much money for cancer treatment, and they can all these things can be avoided with simple methods and basic things related to this thing. We'll start off with one malignancy separately. Firstly, starting off with breast. So breast, most common presentation, there is a concept what is called as breast self-examination, where the patient will palpate, or not the patient, the person will palpate her own breast and see for any lump or any swelling. And once she has seen and noticed any swelling, she will have to report it to the closest physician that is possible or closest doctor that is possible, who will advise on the further treatment of these things. So breast self-examination had initially played a very, very vital role in screening for cancers. But then there are a lot of social implications related to cancer. Like if you come to know that it is malignant, the female feels that, this whatever I'm having is a malignant issue. How would it go? How would it go about in her family? How would she feel? How would her family treat her? Cancer patients are almost treated like a social outcast among people. People feel that if she has cancer, she is going to die, which is not the truth. Cancer people can live just like any other normal human being. Cancer people can live just like any other non-cancerous people can live. Many of the females, many of the patients that I come across, they say, I've already got cancer. That means it's like end of life for me. Do you think I'm going to cure? No. Everyone that I hear about cancer, everything says there's only death. No, no, that is not at all the scenario. Death is just the last option, and death generally occurs in the last stage. That is the basic thing. When we catch up a cancer at a very early stage, that is like we are almost giving them close to 100% results. And in common cases like breast and cervix, in very early stage, we're going to give them a lot of good results. and good benefits by taking adequate care and adequate treatment. So when it comes to breast cancer, the common symptoms include a lump in the breast, a small swelling in the breast or lump, and any discharge from the nipple. Nipple area complex अगर से कुछ discharge आया है, मतलब liquid की तरफ कुछ बाहर निकल रहा है, that is one another sign of what is called as cancer. And also, if there is anything called as changes in the skin, like nipple is getting retracted, or nipple is getting uh, pulled in, whatever it is. So this is another sign of malignancy. So basically, there are three signs that, as a common person, should remember. Number one is nipple retraction or skin retraction, bleeding from the nipple, and third one is presence of anything like a lump in the breast. Most commonly would be a lump in the breast. So based on the lump in the breast or based on any of these things, we have to investigate further, and we have to do a concept what is called as triple assessment in carcinoma breast. Triple assessment is where you have a radiological in the form of what is called as ultrasound or mammogram, and a pathological, which is in the form of core needle biopsy or FNAC. FNAC stands for fine needle aspiration cytology. So when you have a core needle biopsy or when you have a fine needle aspiration cytology, in one of these two situations, you will be able to find out what kind of cancer it is. So first and foremost step would be to find out what is called as what kind of cancer it is in the form of pathology, which is FNAC or core needle biopsy. Second would be to find out what is called as radiological proof in the form of malignancy or in the form of mammogram or ultrasound. And third would be what is called as clinical examination. So usage of clinical examination, radiological examination, and pathological examination, all these three together will make up almost 99 to 100% sensitivity and specificity of diagnosing a case of cancer, breast cancer. Hence, once any of these things, however it is done, then we can further treat the patient based on the stage of the disease. Staging is based on what is called as size of the tumor, number of lymph nodes, and presence of metastasis. That is what is called as T, N, and M. T stands for tumor size, N for number of nodes, and M is for metastasis. T, N, and M. So basically, we may have to go ahead with what size it is, what stage it is, what number of nodes are, and what is the histopathological variant of this cancer. So breast cancer comes in multiple variants, and there are certain receptors called as estrogen, progesterone, ERPR, estrogen receptor and progesterone receptor, and HER2 receptors. So the entire biology of these cancer, breast cancers, is just based on these estrogen receptors, progesterone receptors, and HER2 new positive receptors. So they vary in their variation. You can have what is called as a positive ERPR or a negative ERPR, or you can have a positive HER2 or a negative HER2. So based on whether it is positive ERPR or negative ERPR, there's appropriate therapy and appropriate chemotherapies that are there. And everything is right now almost treatable in a very early stage. And there are so many new drugs, so many new classes of medications, and so many latest advancements, including surgical, non-surgical, as well as medical treatment, and also use of radiation in carcinoma breast. So the main motto of this awareness program is to diagnose the cancer at a very early stage. At a very early stage, the chance of giving cure rate is almost close to 95 to 100%. Hence, diagnosing at a very early stage is vital. So there are so what happens is the you need to have good family support and also good methods of diagnosis, and also help in finding out where the lesion is, and also find out whether there are metastases, because metastases also help in they are associated with adverse prognostic factors. Hence, in carcinoma breast, clinical examination followed by usage of radiological examination, and third and finally you have the pathological examination. And then in pathological examination you have to know what is called as estrogen receptor, ER, and HER2 receptor status, and based on these receptor status we can take care or we can do the adequate therapies, and which includes surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. Nowadays, there is even concept of what is called as breast conservative surgery, where we are not going to remove the entire breast. We are just removing a part of the breast, which includes lumpectomy. You just remove the lump. You don't even need to remove extra normal tissue also. You just have to remove the lump and then subject this for histopathological examination, and then based on the further histopathological examination, chemotherapy and radiotherapy will be given. Chemotherapy is mandatory and also radiation is mandatory when you are doing what is called as breast conservation surgery. So young females and patients who feel more socially out, who wants more social interactions and all these things, they would prefer what is called as breast conservative surgery, provided they have got good compliance and also have the capability to take complete chemotherapy and also radiation. Hence, breast conservative surgery has come up in a long way. Uh, Breast conservation surgery has come up in a long way, and right now, breast conservative surgery is the main common surgery or main common treatment that is being taken care right now in the treatment of cancer. uh, I have got some questions that are. There are a number of uh, other chemotherapy and also hormonal related therapies that are seen in breast cancer. Chemotherapy is basically it's like an IV injection that you give. You mix in some anti-chemotherapy drug in IV fluid, and it is injected into the uh, IV fluid. And when it is injected into the body, you have the appropriate treatment. There are people have got various fears about losing of hair, and that is going to be permanent. Losing of hair will may be there, and but it is not permanent. The moment you finish the entire chemotherapy cycles regularly, your hair is going to come back. There is no fear that you're going to lose your hair at all. Secondly, uh, there will be associated with weakness, generalized body weakness, and also decrease in the WBC or white blood cell counts. So when there is a decrease in the WBC or the white blood cell counts, and also when there is uh, generalized body weakness and all these things are very, very temporary. And the moment you finish the chemotherapy, the patient has got good chances of for them to come back to normal situation again for further therapy in the form of radiation. Apart from this, we also have to discuss a few things about hormonal therapy. Hormonal therapy has right now come out in a very, very long way and very great way right now in the treatment of carcinoma breast. Basically, estrogen, the hormone that is present in the females, estrogen is the that causes all these disorders that we're talking about: breast, ovary, endometrium, etc. So nowadays we have these newer drugs called as estrogen receptor blockers, estrogen receptor modifiers, and etc. Aromatase inhibitors. All these are drugs. They are simple tablets that can be taken. They may have to be taken for as long as 10 years. Right now, there's a recent trial, Atlas trial, that has come up, which has shown that using it for 10 years is slightly more beneficial than using it just for 5 years. Previously, we used to prescribe it for like exactly 5 years, but now, 10 years is what is recommended for right now post this thing. You can use in combinations. You can use for 2 years one type of drug, another 2 years a different type of drug. Whatever these blockers or whatever we're discussing about should be used for around 10 years together. Uh, Apart from this, there's also called as ovarian ablation therapies and all, which can be done either surgical or medical. Drugs can be used in order to ablate the ovaries, because ovary is just considered the site where it is produced from. And this is in basics about carcinoma breast and awareness about it. The first most important thing from a patient or a general population perspective is good examination, followed by good radiological assessment in the form of mammogram or ultrasound, also called as sonomammogram. And third or fourth is good pathological investigation or good pathological studies in the form of ER, PR, HER2/neu, either with a core needle biopsy or with the help of a FNAC. If you have facilities for FNAC, that would be good enough for you to get yourself tested. But if you want to know what are the estrogen receptor, progesterone receptor status, you may have to go with core-needle biopsy. Sometimes even FNAC can know about ERPR status, but core-needle biopsy is more specific and more better than this thing. Removing the entire breast may not be required nowadays. Only breast conservative surgery, where only a part of lump can be removed, and you would not require to remove the entire breast in the present generation, present scenario. And you have latest advanced chemotherapy drugs. Hair fall is just temporary. It may come back to normal after you finish chemotherapy. And radiation is required when you're going with breast conservation kinds of therapies. Firstly, what is the concept of screening? Why does the screening come into picture? Screening is generally done in patients or in cancers where, the time from them to develop the early symptoms till they develop to the symptoms where they present or they present with some complication is large. Like if you take cancer cervix, by the time they present clinically with a symptom, something like bleeding or something, they already may have got some amount of disease, either more than stage 1 or stage 2. But the early stages of cancer, which can be detected with the help of colposcopy or with can be help of pap smear or etc., with the help of screening mechanisms, can be caught up at a very, very early stage, the very early stage, such a way with the help of this pap smear, etc. So in case of carcinoma cervix, which is also another common cancers in female, what we need to do is we need to do common basic things like vaginal examination and also any symptoms pertaining to bleeding per vagina and post-coital bleeding after having any intercourse. If there is any history of bleeding during post-coitus, is also a very, very important sign or a very important sign of that we are having some amount of cancer in the form of cervix. So hence in carcinoma cervix, bleeding per vagina or post-coital bleeding is the most important clinical signs. People who are sexually active and multiple intercourses or multiple partners are more prone for all these cancers. So good, healthy sexual lifestyle is also very important in preventing carcinoma cervix. Regarding, we have just missed about how to prevent about carcinoma breast, etc. Carcinoma breast, the only modifiable risk factors is uh, obesity. Obesity is the most important factor that will lead to, again, it's related to amount of estrogen. Obesity, more estrogen, more improper cycles, and more chance of malignancy. Hence, in ovarian cancer and also in situations like breast cancer, where estrogen is the causative factor or estrogen is the causative agent, obesity would be a very important factor to be controlled. Good diet, good nutrition, less amount of fats, keeping your cholesterol in control, good sugar control, and also avoiding hypertension are the most important symptoms and most important methods to control sugars, to control carcinoma breast. Again, coming to cervix, going back to cervix. So post-coital bleeding is a very important sign, and any patient with post-coital bleeding have to be investigated. Screening in carcinoma cervix can be started as early as maybe 30 years of age or when they're being sexually active. So in Indian scenarios, there was a new injection or new vaccine that was started for carcinoma cervix, Cervarix and Gardasil. This was commonly used between the age group of around 16 to 20, 19 to 26. That is what the recommendation says. It contains 4 lethal strains of cancer, namely HPV 6, 8, 16, and 18. These are associated with highest chance of carcinoma cervix. Apart from that, you have right now 45 and 33 HPV strains, 45 and 33 also, which have got high risk of developing cancers. So hence, when it comes to cancer screening for carcinoma cervix, HPV testing, HPV DNA is not really mandatory. HPV DNA, presence of HPV DNA may be a positive factor, but it's not 100% mandatory right now to get it tested. Well, the common things that we need to do is what is called as uh, cervical examination, PV examination, and apart from that, we'll do what is called as Asto-White testing, where acetic acid is placed into the cervix, and over that, whatever is strained positive or whatever is strained white in color is supposed to be an area of high chance of malignancy. This is called as squamo-columnar junction. Normally, during sexually active phase, This pharmacolumnar junction comes more towards the outer side where it can be clearly visible. And so based on this early stage, we can make out with the help of this colposcopy. Colposcopy is a small camera, something like a magnifying lens, which can find out how much area of this aceto whitening is present. Based on the amount of aceto whitening presence and also the amount of lesion that you can see in this, we can find out what is the cause. What is the cause, or we can find out where is the lesion, and it is either a pap smear, a smear from those cells, a smear of those cells can be taken up and seen or visualized, and or you can take a biopsy from that lesion and it can be visualized under microscopy. Based on what the biopsy says and also based on what the microscopy says, we can classify or stage the disease with the help of MRI and also with the help of clinical examination. So uh, the prime motto of these cancers that we are discussing right now is to detect the cancers at a very early stage. Detecting the cancer at a very early stage just depends on the symptoms. Any symptom that you have pertaining to malignancy should not be ignored. That's the basic thing. So if you have a symptom of carcinoma of breast, as we have already discussed, any lump, nipple discharge, or retraction or change in skin, signs of malignancy. When it comes to cervix, any bleeding, signs of malignancy. When it comes to other malignancies like pain, like stomach, esophagus, etc., any pain in the stomach or any pain in the esophagus or any pain in the chest region, visual has to be evaluated. First, most common cause of pain in chest again is cardiovascular event, but otherwise, you have to investigate for the esophagus as also a lesion. Then stomach, you'll have pain and also some amount of bleeding. But by the time they present with bleeding and also with pain, they're already having some amount of cancer. They may already have some amount of cancer somewhere between stage 2 and stage. You never know. So we have seen many cases of cancer stomach. What happens is, in case of cancer stomach, they present with pain abdomen, which is generally neglected. They take some medications that is over the counter, like some pantoprazole or some painkillers, etc., and all. But the actual symptoms of what is happening inside is never examined. So almost 6 months down the lane, they come with other symptoms like weight loss, like loss of appetite, and also some other node, some other swelling in the abdomen, or sometimes even gastric outlet obstruction where they're not able to eat. Whatever is eaten is vomited. So that is the stage at which they would come at the later stage. So any small pain in abdomen has to be thought of with anything like cancers and they have to be investigated. And then when it comes to other things like colon and rectum, what we need to do is any bleeding per rectum or any even a small amount of blood per rectum has to be investigated, which can be as simple as small per rectal examination, which is a clinical office procedure where with the help of a finger we'll evaluate what is happening in the rectum. So that basic procedure can also tell us about what is happening in the rectum and also in the anal canal. So rectum and anal canal, basically with help of per rectal examination, we can know what is the disease and where is the disease and how much is it extending up to. How much is extending laterally, we need to assess with the help of what is called as MRI. Hence, clinically, if the cancer is present or not, we would recommend to take a biopsy from that and know what kind of cancer it is. So, any bleeding per rectum or any mass that is protruding from the rectum has to be evaluated and should be considered as cancer unless and otherwise proved. So, small bleeding per rectum, even in the morning when you go for passing stool, when you go for passing feces, you may sometimes see reddish discoloration of the rectum, a reddish discoloration of stool. This is typical early signs of malignancy. And other signs of malignancy in case of carcinoma rectum and colon is what is called as weight loss, unexplained weight loss. Patient will have anemia, patient will be losing blood, which will be very microscopic and they may not notice initially. But the mass per rectum and also mass per colon, they present with anemia because the tumor starts bleeding slowly, 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 where the amount of blood in the circulation and it results in anemia. So hence presence of anemia is one another early sign, and also presence of what is called as uh, weight loss and loss of appetite are also signs of malignancy in colon and rectum. Then when it comes to other parts of the body, like in the oral cancer, the most important risk factor for oral cancer is smoking. Smoking produces soot, or the blackish colored thing, which goes into the oral cavity and also into the oropharynx, sometimes into the lungs also, where it gets settled there, and that will cause irritation over the oral cavity, nasopharynx, oropharynx, into the trachea, and also into the bronchus, and even into what is called as the lung. So these kind of things should be evaluated, and what they should be advised about no smoking. That's the reason why we have right now in every movie, before and after every movie, we have what is called as avoid smoking to prevent cancer. Lung cancers are very, very, very horrific. They only diagnose as late as third or fourth stage, and before that there's only one test which is called as low dose CT scan, which has shown some promising results in screening the cancer patients. But otherwise, low dose CT scan is not all that effective as we thought of. Hence, lung cancer is one of the most important method of preventing lung cancer is to avoid smoking. And smoking will irritate all these mucosas, all these epitheliums that we have thought about, that we have just discussed, and they will irritate all the mucosas and all, and cause what is called as change in the epithelium, which later leads to what is called as cancers. These cancers can be very aggressive, and especially oral cancers are very, very aggressive. At the time of diagnosis, they may be a very, very early stage, but by the time they are treated, or by the time they have any of these things, they may even be at stage 4. Sometimes in cancer hospital in RCC where I was working, there was used to be a waiting time for almost 1 or 2 weeks. So by the time of their diagnosis at a very early stage, and by the time they come onto table for surgery, they're almost stage 4. Stage 1 to stage 4, they go in very, very no time. Hence, any small changes in the oral cavity, like whitish discoloration, which is called as leukoplakia, has to be investigated. Any small changes which is red in color, which is bleeding, that also has to be investigated. So these small reddish or whitish colors, you have to do what is called as a biopsy. And presence of any candidiasis, oral candidiasis, is also high risk for having developing cancer. So leukoplakia, erythroplakia, whitish plaque, reddish plaque, or anything like candidiasis are all high chance of what is called as having malignancies in the oral cavity, which has to be looked out for. And a smear with the help of a glass slide or a biopsy of these things will be helpful in diagnosing what kind of cancer it is, whether it is treatable or this thing. Early cancers of oral cavity are very much treatable. Tongue is supposed to be the most vascular organ, and because it is in the most vascular organ, there is a high chance that it will spread very easily, and sometimes tongue may spread into the neck. Presence of neck nodes has to be evaluated because neck is the site where they spread the cancers. Next, uh, apart from this, sometimes we may there's other few questions like in the rectum, when you get a red color stool, it can be because of piles. Yes, it can be because of piles, but piles you can clearly see them from outside, and piles also has to be investigated with the help of a colonoscopy in order to confirm that there is nothing other than piles. Sometimes we have come across so many cases where they have done surgeries for piles and they end up having a biopsy of adenocarcinoma. Hence, having piles is very easy. It is possible. Constipation and all has to be corrected, but just having red color blood has to be investigated whether it is for piles or whether it is for cancer. If it is comes as piles, it is well and good. It's just a benign thing. But if it comes as malignancy, then you have to be very careful about it. So when it comes to other organs that we have commonly seen across is skin tumors. Skin tumors are very common in fair people who are exposed to sun for a lot of time. So these sun rays and all ultraviolet rays, they cause what is called as skin irritation and all these things. Hence, common methods of preventing skin cancers is using what is called as the sun's protect or sunscreens that we normally use for going out. Sunscreen is just prevents us, protects us from all these skin related cancers and all. In countries like white skin people are more prone to it because they are more, what do you call, more fair and inconsistency, which is this thing. But Indians generally have this at a very, less rate because they are already, first of all, dark skin and they are used to this weather that we have, this thing. Then, When it comes to other tumors, like basically you have what is called as soft tissue sarcomas and bones. I myself am a specialized in bone and soft tissue sarcomas. So bone and soft tissue sarcomas occur at a very young age. Bone tumors occur at almost 19 years, 19. Most common age of presentation is between 15 to 25 years of age. Any small trivial trauma causing any growth or anything which is taking a lot of time to heal should be evaluated. We have seen so many young, very, very young, enthusiastic people who come with a small trivial trauma that they have fallen down and they lead to what is called as having osteosarcoma or bone tumors. So they are also very aggressive, and by the time they are neglected, thinking that is nothing, it's just a small swelling, you know, which can be treated very easily without any this thing, and then suddenly you come to know at one fine day that this is a malignancy that I'm holding. So these kind of things are very, very terrific, and it's sometimes very difficult to tell our people, what is going to happen, or even tell them about the prognosis of the patient, because they have very high hopes on the patient. He's just about 19 to 20 years of age, and then suddenly you tell it is a very aggressive cancer and things. So that is another important factor that we should remember. And apart from that, these people can be treated very well. They first have to go what is neoadjuvant, like early chemotherapy followed by surgery. Even limb, initially the treatment of choice was what's called as amputation, but now we have very well advanced therapies in the form of limb salvage surgery, where we remove the entire tumor but keep the bone intact and put a prosthesis into that bone, where into the rest of the bone, so that patient can walk back into the normal life again. We have done almost quite a large number of cases of limb salvage, and ours is the highest center in the state of Telangana that does number of limb salvages and all. Then when it comes to other methods or other treatment of cancers and all, basically how do we prevent or how do we protect ourselves from any of these cancers? First thing, the point that one may develop cancer in a patient is more or less written previous, like it's more or less genetic. So there is some amount of genetic factor that is present in any of these malignancies or any of these cancers. So initially there's something like half the cancer is already prepared when you are born, but the remaining half is done by yourself, either by the help of smoking or with some other things like obesity or something else, like your habits or something, some related to alcohol, etc. So genetically we are half made with the help of cancer, that you may develop this cancer provided you have yourself screened or something like that. So hence in early, and most of the cancers that are diagnosed at an early stage, early age, I'm not sorry, not stage, early age. In early age, the cancers that develop are more or less genetic. That means they already have a gene predisposition. Like the body makeup says that you are going to destined to develop a cancer, and they may portray the cancer in them. So hence, the cancers that occur in a very early stage or a very early age group, they're supposed to be slightly more aggressive than the cancer that develop at a later age. Later age are the cancers that are because of wear and tear. When the cancer occurs after 50 to 60 years, because of chronic wear and tear of the patient, which has occurred slowly, 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 and hence they are presenting at a very later stage. At the later stage, these chronic irritating kind of cancers and all, they can be treated very easily. But the ones that are because of genetic makeup, they should be very careful, because they themselves may cause cancer. Apart from that, their own family members may be affected with cancer, like her own siblings and all may be affected with cancer, and the their children, the patient's children, may later develop these kind of cancers. So now it's a very, very tricky and a nasty situation for young people, where they feel they're growing up well. Recently I operated one case of cancer colon. He was an absolutely fit IIT candidate, IIT student from Delhi. He was very young, energetic. He was just 21 years of age. Early symptoms of bleeding. I've advised colonoscopy. Initial colonoscopy said there was growth in the sigmoid colon. The moment from the time of the CT scan till the patient was taken to the surgery, within 4 days after preparation of the patient, there was metastasis already. CT may not catch up metastasis that easily. That's another stage. But By the time, by 21 years of age, he has developed a metastatic lesion. So in young children or young people, the chances are very, very bad, and the chance of having aggressive cancers are very, very easy. And most of the tumors are considered aggressive in children unless and otherwise proved. They have the poor variants, poor histological factors, poor pathological factors in cancers when it comes to children. Adults, they have good histological factors, they can be easily treated, but the body does not let us treat, because by the time you cross 50 to 60 years of age, you all, most of Indians right now, they have some sort of derangement, either in terms of hypertensive, diabetic, or probably some renal symptoms, liver problems, or anything. Hence, the treatment that is can be given for a cancer patient is compromised. Hence, in early age, the cancer aggressive, but treatment can be tolerated because the patients are young. But in a later age, what happens is the cancers are not aggressive, but patient does not have the enough capability to get themselves treated, as they have some amount of what do you call risk factors associated with it. Lifestyle modification in the present era. In the olden days, there were very few investigations, and people used to be more hardworking than the present generation. I used to remember many of them telling people used to go walking to their work, walking to their workplace, walking to the fields. There was no facility of bus there. So they were more able and more energetic to run around and do their daily day-to-day activities. But that's not the scenario right now. That's not at all the scenario right now. We have got a lot of fast food joints, a lot of uh, no work. You go to the work by your cab or a vehicle, and then sit down in front of the system, sit down in front of the monitor for almost day to day night. You do not have any movement. You're just sitting like that, doing the work, and then you come back home tired. You sleep again. The thing repeats next day. So when this thing goes on, you have a very bad lifestyle where you are just having about 200 steps, 2000 steps, and doing nothing. And apart from that, you don't have time to cook. You eat whatever is available. Sometimes you may just go ahead with what is called as junk that is present along with your diet. So all these things, these are the present day's lifestyle. So hence the lifestyle has to be totally changed. Please allot some time for your physical work. Have healthy and good nutritional food with less fat or less thing in your diet. And also, please make sure that you stop smoking and alcohol. These are very, very, alcohol is okay to be frank, but smoking, please stop smoking. Smoking is very, very risky. And we may have the concept that I use filter cigarettes, I use this thing and all. Still, the point that arises there is, with the help of even with the filter cigarettes, the thing gets even finer, and there's more chance that cancer causing nicotine, cancer causing smooth smoke can go all the way down the lungs into all the distal most part and then cause up there. So that is also considered very, very risk for the patient. Hence, avoid smoking and avoid alcohol. Good healthy lifestyle, good diet, good nutrition, good roughage. Roughage is one of the most important factor. Any should have all the any patient should have their bowels clean and all. Papaya, etc. The fruits are very, very helpful. Keep in mind of your sugar levels, and please do not mind eating any fruits and vegetables. They are the most healthy things. Then there are number of tumor markers that I need to discuss about. There are number of tumors that is helpful in diagnosing cancers at a very early stage. Like if you take breast, they have got mammoprint, they have got CA 15.3. These are some of the markers that are recently used up. But again, lump is the best sign. You don't need to use markers. Sometimes if the cancer is present very deep inside the body, where you cannot easily identify or recognize sometimes something like gallbladder, pancreas, ovary, colon, etc. They all develop at a very later stage. They all present to us at a very later stage. So there are certain tumor markers, namely CA125 for ovarian cancer, CA19-9 for pancreatic cancers, and also what is called as CEA for colonic cancers, and AFP, alpha fetoprotein for liver tumors. So these are the markers that can be used for early detection sometimes, yes. But all the tumors that I've discussed right now may not produce these markers. So if at all there are tumors that produce these markers, it is well and good. But if there are tumors that may not be able to produce these markers, then it is a matter that we have to discuss about. We have to think about, because most of the tumor markers, they help in detection, yes. They also help in what is called as seeing how the prognosis is. Sometimes we may also notice that after initially CA125 in carcinoma ovary, maybe around 300, 400. But after you take appropriate therapy in the form of surgery and chemotherapy, they may come back to normal, less than 35. So using this CA125 as a marker, we can make out we can make out how much amount of disease burden is still present. If CA125 comes back to normalcy, that means there is very little or there's no disease burden. But if CA125 on frequent follow-up says CA125 is gradually increasing, that means that means that there is a chance, there is a high chance that there is recurrence of the tumor, and you have to investigate further. Presence of increase in CA125 is not the only method to diagnose recurrence. This is a surrogate marker that says that there can be a chance where the recurrence has occurred. Hence, you need further investigations in the form of CT scan to know how much is the amount of recurrence or where it has recurred. So, hence, what is called as CA1 markers, either CA125, CA99 for pancreatic cancer, they all help in treating and also help in prognosis and also help to assess about recurrence at a very early stage and a very early disease. Then most of the cancers that I need to tell you about, especially breast and ovarian cancers, can have genetic in them. Breast cancers, they are associated with certain genes, what is called as BRCA, breast cancer associated gene, BRCA, where there's a high chance that, the cancer may be present at the next generation within 10 years from the previous generation that it has affected. Suppose, let's say one generation, it affects the female at around 40 years of age. The next generation, they may affect as early as 30 years of age. 30 years of age. Hence, screening of them has to be started at least 10 years prior to the previous age of screening. Okay, especially in carcinoma breast, who has got high chance of genetic, where about 15% of the cancers are genetic in carcinoma breast. Out of those 15%, presence of BRCA is very aggressive. Like they discuss, they can present at a very early stage of diagnosis. Hence, BRCA genes helps in diagnosis, help in screening the patient at a very early age. Hence, the investigation that is required here for BRCA is MRI. Normally, I've discussed about what is called as mammogram and ultrasound. Mammogram and ultrasound are not adequate enough in a case of breast, in the case of carcinoma breast. But when you have a genetic relation, like in the form of BRCA positive patient, etc., you may have to do what is called as MRI of the breast. So MRI of the breast is recommended in three situations. Number one, when you have a genetic history or a family history of breast cancer. Number two is when you have a previous history of radiation to the chest. And number three, when you have any previous surgery done to the breast, either in the form of lumpectomy or you have put some silicone implants or whatever it is that being done in nowadays. So any of these three indications, you have to be very careful. Sometimes we may have a huge family history of breast cancer. Like I have one of my has got liver cancer. Some of them have got pancreatic cancer. So mother, sister. So any first degree relatives having any sort of cancer, first degree relatives having cancer has to be investigated. First degree relatives includes mother, father, sisters, or brothers. Second degree are more than this: grandparents, grandmothers, grandparents, grandchildren, and your uncles and aunties come under second generation. First generation people has to be there. You have to investigate very strongly, and all the malignancies, like if you have a liver cancer or pancreatic cancer, you have to screen for them. And screening for these groups is always recommended 10 years a year earlier to the age at which they are diagnosed. Like if they're diagnosed at 40 years of age, their children has to be screened from 10 years prior to that. Oral cavity cancers can be treated with the help of radiation as well as surgery. Early stages can be treated with the help of surgery. The surgery was generally avoided in the present COVID scenario where only radiation was given, but right now I think most of the centers have started up again. So surgery is done in early lesions where we can dissect the entire tumor and put a flap or resect it. But in a late stages where you cannot operate or you are doubtful that you will not be able to remove the entire cancer, then radiation will also be there. Both radiation and surgery have got equal results, but chance of recurrence is less when you go ahead with surgery. Presence, other important area that I have not discussed or I have not seen is what is called as vocal cords and also what is called as hypopharynx or larynx or supraglottis or infloglottis. These are all present in the neck area. So basically, larynx is the entry part into the voice box or into the trachea. So basically, these areas have got very this thing very tricky because you may have to preserve the voice. Because any of the surgery done here, you will be ending up losing the voice. Hence, in order to prevent voice loss to these areas, what we have done, what we recommend is what is called as definitive complete chemotherapy with radiation, chemo RT, concurrent chemo RT, where chemotherapy is also given with the help of is given with radiation. Hence, the entire primary site of the tumor will be destroyed with the help of chemoradiation, and hence, when chemoradiation is done, most of the tumor will be lost. Suppose after chemoradiation there is any residual tumor that is picked up in either PET CT scan or clinically, we will have to do surgery for that. And this time there is no option. The surgery will be what is called as total laryngectomy or esophagectomy or LPO, laryngopharyngoesophagectomy, where you will have a permanent tracheostomy and you will be able to breathe only through this opening in the neck rather than directly. Then most of the cancers, most of the fear that what we have is what is called as when we have any cancer, is it sure that we'll be able to cure the cancers or not cure the cancers, etc. Early detection of cancer is the core important thing. Early detection of cancer in any cancers can help in what is called as complete treatment in most of the cancers. But the cancer has got a very unique thing where it does not come out in a very early stage. It comes out when there is some complication or something like it comes out almost somewhere between stage 3 and stage 4. When it comes in this stage, we are it depends again on the size or stage or lesion of the cancer. In some cancers, even metastatic cancers, like if you have carcinoma colon where liver it spreads to the liver, we can still do go ahead with doing what is called as resection of the colon and also resection of the liver, either in one step or two steps. So colon cancers can sometimes be what is called as completely curative, even though there is metastatic. Even soft tissue sarcoma, sometimes we do a wide excision flap cover, and also they may have lung mets. We also remove the lung mets. So it is possible to have a complete cure in some, even lung, carcinoma breast. We have got good amount of treatment per se, where even in metastatic setting, metastatectomy, and also giving radiation to the sites where there is metastasis to bone, etc., can be done. Hence, metastasis does not mean that you are done and dusted and nothing else can be done. Yes, you may not get 100% cure rate, but there is a possibility, there is a hope that the cancer can still be under control, or cancer can be, what is called as kept at a bay, or maybe stopping the progression of the tumor sometime for at least a brief period of time. And the new drugs, namely what is called as PDL1 inhibitors in the form of pembrolizumab, etc., specifically used in carcinoma lung, especially adenocarcinoma, they have shown very good results, and they have shown even survival benefit after using what is called as cancer related for even metastatic settings. Rectum cancer per se is more or less, when you go for rectal cancer, the early treatment would be, first treatment would be what is called as neoadjuvant chemoradiation. So where the patient is directly not subjected to surgery, initially you will have what is called as chemoradiotherapy, where chemotherapy and radiation is given to the rectum, and hence the tumor size will decrease, and will make the operation and surgery more comfortable and more easy. And apart from that, will also decrease the stage, downsize the stage of the tumor, and will give better results than going directly ahead with surgery. And based on the response to chemoradiotherapy, sometimes after chemoradiotherapy, the entire cancer may lose, and you may not have any cancer cells, or you may not have any cancer tissue present after surgery. But still, removal of rectum is recommended right now. In near future, there are few trials that are coming up, which shows that if there is complete response to chemoradiotherapy, you can observe the rectum under close follow-up. But right now, it is still recommended to remove the entire colon, the entire rectum following surgery after chemoradiation, and hence removal of the rectum along with the lymph node supply that it presents will be the treatment of choice after giving neoadjuvant chemotherapy. And based on the response to this chemotherapy, whether chemotherapy and radiation has decreased the entire tumor load or not decreased the entire tumor load, you will have to give only chemotherapy after surgery, after the final surgery. This chemotherapy is something treated similar to colon, whereas this is not the same situation of colon. In cancer colon, the first treatment of choice would be surgery alone, followed by chemotherapy. In rectum, it is neoadjuvant chemoradiotherapy, followed by surgery, followed by chemotherapy. Whereas in colon, you have what is called as direct surgery, followed by chemotherapy. I want to highlight a few basics of radiation. Radiation is as simple as a CT scan machine where you go into the machine, you are irradiated. Some amount of electricity rays go through the body, especially into the tumor site and also the surrounding tissue of the tumor, not the entire body, only surrounding tissue of the tumor, where all the cancer cells are slowly bombarded with the help of this electricity rays, and the tumor tissue decreases in size and decreases in consistency, and hence we can operate it at a later stage. So this is given in what is called as fractions, and they are given fractions 5 days a week per number of days. So when you are given for 5 days a week for number of days, for about weekly 5 days, and in case of breast they're given for about 25 days, that comes for 5 weeks. In case of head and neck they're given for 35 days, that comes for 7 weeks. So based on the site of tumors, they are given at a different number of days. And this thing, chemotherapy is something like giving this thing. Chemoradiotherapy is seen where 5 days they are given chemotherapy, the 5 days they're given radiation, I'm sorry, and the sixth day they give chemotherapy. So concurrent chemoradiation is where chemotherapy and radiation, both of them are given together at the same time or same stage. So as we have already discussed, the most important factor here is if there is a family history of breast cancer or family history of any cancer, if they are present at a particular age, so the screening to the next generation, either the children or the siblings or whatever it is, the screening to the next generation has to be started 10 years prior to the diagnosis of cancer. So again, what are the tests that I should take up regularly in order to know whether I have developed cancer or not? More than tests, it is your clinical or your feeling. If you are feeling uneasy, if you are feeling anything like cough, not healing, if you're feeling any bleeding or anything that is coming out per rectum, if you are having coughing out sputum which is containing blood, if you have any lump that is palpable, if you have any swelling that is palpable, if you have anything pertaining to what is called as if not able to see properly, any oral cavity lesions, anything that is paining, any of these symptoms that you have to investigate it as soon and as immediately as possible. These are the methods of screening yourself. The main role comes in screening. Your own important roles may helps in diagnosing cancer at a very early stage. Hence, if you are able to find out these early symptoms, like as I've already discussed in most of the tumors, like pain in abdomen or bleeding or weight loss or this thing. Remember one thing, once the patient goes into a stage of weight loss or loss of appetite, they are generally considered very, very bad at time of prognosis and very prognosis. So you should try to catch up cancer at an age even before it says that there is loss of appetite, loss of weight. Loss of weight and loss of appetite is what is called as cancer cachexia. It is considered a very late stage and not as we have thought about. So cancer cachexia is a very late stage at the time of, by the time we diagnose cancer cachexia. Hence, cancer cachexia is very bad to the patient. Your nutrition and also your treatment plays a very, very important role in preventing what is this cancer cachexia, etc. So most important here is your clinical regular examination when you take a shower, when you wear clothes, or when you feel anything, you feel any new thing, any new lump, anything, any change, any color, any mole that is increasing in size, any mass, any lump, anything that is bleeding, anything that is abnormal to you has to be investigated. And the point to be remembered is anything that is abnormal in the body or anything that is very severe or that is happening something abnormal that we have not thought about or that is not there before, that never used to appear before, has to be investigated unless and otherwise proved. Especially in bone cancers, what happens is you have at the early age of diagnosis, as I've told you, there is some lump, or there is something, there's some extra mass that is protruding. It may be initially painless. People think it is painless, and they feel like uh, what is called as, nothing is going to happen, it is going to go off by itself. Even most of the cancers, they are painless to start with. They only become painful when they involve the local nerve, and also they only become painful when they involve the adjacent structures which cause severe pain. Hence, having pain in cancer is also a very later stage than not having pain, right? So preventing yourself, any small thing that does not have any symptom, like small lump which is not painful, but there is a lump, which should not be ignored, has to be investigated and has to be treated for. There is no cancer in the body that says I will not come again. Of all the best cancer, the best cancer that can ever be present is thyroid cancer. Thyroid cancer has got a very little, least chance of recurrence when compared to most of the other cancers. Thyroid cancer, generally we talk about cancers, we talk in what is called as 5 years survival rate. Suppose you're diagnosing a cancer today, and suppose for this stage, the approximate 5 years survival would be about 80%. That means 80% of the patients who are diagnosed at this case, at this stage, will survive for more than what is called as 10 years. It's called as a 5 year survival rate. But in case of carcinoma thyroid, it is calculated in terms of 25-year-old survival rate. Thyroid cancers have got a 25 years survival rate of almost 99%. So of all the cancers, the most important point is what is called as survival rate. The highest is seen in thyroid, which is very good. So there is no cancer in the body that says we will not recur. Cancer always, you should keep in mind, cancer always may recur. And just treatment is not what is required. Even follow-up is most important. The most commonly recommended follow-up is every month for the first 3 months, and followed by that every 3 months for the remaining first year, and then 6 months for the next 2 years, and yearly from then onwards. This is the most common scenario, most common situation, where you have monthly examination for the first 1 year, for the first 3 months after surgery or any treatment, and then yearly for the next end of the year. First year you'll do it every 3 months, and from second year and third year you'll have it every 6 months, and from then on it is recommended to have it every year. Every year is the minimum, and every year is for the lifetime. There's nothing like after 10 years I need not go back to this thing and all. No, you have to get screened regularly, and screening is the most important, and follow-up is the most important landmark and most important thing. Any small follow-up, because you have already gone through a previously surgical or previously irradiated site, will be very, very difficult to treat. Hence, finding up any recurrence in a very early stage is very, very important, and also very, very uh, helpful in further treatment or further this thing. Moles in the body has to be also have to be examined. Any mole that is suddenly increasing in size, change in color, or having some amount of pain or itching has to be evaluated. You are supposed to what is called as remove the mole or whatever it is for biopsy, and helps in biopsy and diagnosing the patient. So smoking, I would say, would be the most important thing. But there are some situations where people may say, "I don't smoke, but I still got a cancer." In such that situation, as I've already suggested, there could be a scenario where you are already half cancer done in your body, and then some other inciting factor, like maybe some amount of irritation, some amount of lung infection, some amount of bronchial infection, either because of any other cause, can cause all these malignancies. Lung cancers can be genetic, as I've already told you. There can be genetic, and when they express is also very important. Some genetic cancer does not mean that they have to express right today itself. They may express as late as even 50, 60, 65 years of age. So presence of genes does not mean that the moment the patient is born, he will be expressing cancer. No, he will be expressing cancer at a very later, sometimes they may express cancer at a later stage and later duration also. So genetic factor may be there, but not always. Genetic factor cannot be totally ruled out. Hence, most important thing is regular screening, regular checkup for yourself, regular follow up, and also examining yourself. Any small symptoms, please don't neglect. Please have a look at it. please get yourself tested, treated. Even though it is benign, it is well and good if it is benign. If it is malignant, you have good, latest, advanced technologies all over the country. And as a MediBuddy Docs app also can help you out. And we have good oncologist team working here with MediBuddy Docs app. They'll help you out with any stage and every stage treatment for carcinoma and any cancers and this thing. Food has got no relation, only obesity and also having large amount of fat, and this thing has got good relation. Previously, there was a thought that red meat, like meat of goat and buffalo and all, are associated with malignancy. There is a very little association, but not a severe association. But there is a chance that it can occur. And so I would wind up by saying that please take care about yourself, and any opinion, any second opinion, please do discuss on this MediBuddy Docs app platform. We have a good oncological team will help you out in diagnosis, also help in treatment, and also right method how to go about. So that's the thing that we can do. And please get yourself screened and please help yourself.